What's up, guys? I'm back with another update on my Go For My website that I'm working on. And today we're going to be exploring the deck builder a little bit further. So I did make some progress from last time. And as you can see here in the search results, I added a bunch of other cards. In fact, I added enough cards so that I can be able to actually build a deck here and showcase, the deck builder in action. And in addition to that, I added a couple of new things, and I kind of fixed the look of the cards, although not entirely, especially with the monsters. So right now there's actually a bug that I really don't like, but I'm just going to leave that for the future. But basically, if you hover over a monster card specifically that has text that is too long, and if you hover over another monster card, then basically its text becomes enormous for some reason. Another thing is just in general, when it comes to, basically the other missing elements, monster cards are still missing the attribute. They're missing the stars, the attack and defense points, and whether it's an effect monster, flip monster, etc. So I'm going to ensure that all of that gets added. And in addition to that, I've added some status indicators, basically if a card is limited to 1 or if it's limited to 2. And I added some, specific colors to denote that as well, to symbolize it. And one thing that I did say that I'm going to add is basically now, instead of having to drag the card specifically in this, specific red box, you can basically drag it anywhere within these boundaries that I've set. And it doesn't matter. You can remove cards seamlessly. So that's pretty neat. So yeah, basically dragging and adding cards, moving them from the side deck to the main deck, sorting and shuffling cards around works flawlessly, and removing cards as well. So we're getting pretty close here. The deck builder is getting closer and closer to being finished. I basically just need to ensure that the cards are actually being rendered and everything's being displayed properly. The next part is to also focus on the fusion aspect, like I also mentioned from the previous video. And then, of course, making sure that the search and filter section works as well. And later down the line, I'm going to add the functionality to the rulings button as well as the bookmark button as well. And of course, the expanded, position here for the grid still works as well. But yeah, I didn't just add a bunch of random cards here to the database. I added some chaos control cards. So I went on Format Library and I looked at some of the recent lists that have topped, and I just wanted to build a control list, and I just decided to go with chaos control. So I'm just going to build it basically, act as if I'm just normally building a deck to show you guys what it would look like. And oops, there's supposed to be double Dekoichi. And yeah, as you can see, the drag and drop functionality works pretty nicely. It's being pretty responsive so far, not having any issues. Of course, this is running locally, so speaking of performance and whatnot, that's also going to be definitely taken into consideration, because let me just show you, basically if I hover over a card, if I zoom in, you can see that the card is very high quality, high definition. These cards, I'm using some high resolution images, but they're basically in a format that it's going to be dynamic, so they're going to be able to be dynamically resized. And of course, if your connection is worse, or you could also change it in the settings to which card resolution to default to and whatnot. Basically it's going to take into account for users that have better connection speeds or users that have worse connection speeds, and weaker machines or stronger machines, etc. But by default, Like, or at least right now in production, I'm definitely testing it out with some pretty high resolution images. So let's see what's missing. It's got triple jar of greed, and then some staples. And of course, you can notice that I've kept the implementation that basically, like, if a card, if you've used up all the available copies for a card, you try to drag it, it just doesn't let you, and it's kind of desaturated here to showcase that. Another thing, now that I got to Ring of Destruction, this is something I want to talk about as well. Basically, because Ring of Destruction is one of those cards that has alternate arts, and it's interesting because I'm using the TCG art for Ring of Destruction, but I'm using actually the OCG art for Graceful Charity here. I think I'm probably going to default to TCG art, but that's obviously going to be a setting that you can change on your own. So if you want to default to OCG art, like Dueling Book does, it defaults to the OCG art. I'm not sure why, but obviously people have a preference. I prefer the OCG art for certain cards. For some reason, I don't know why, I just really like the flames on Ring of Destruction. But for example, Mystic Tomato, I just absolutely love the OCG art for that. But yeah, I'm going to basically give the option on which you want by default. And of course, I will also give the option to toggle both if you want. So instead of just showing the TCG art of Ring of Destruction, it's going to show both the TCG and the OCG art. So rest assured, that's also going to be taken care of. And over here, we're almost finished. Just got to add the trapped dust shoots. And there we go. So yeah. And of course, I added everything in order, but if you want to rearrange things. Now, one thing that basically kind of happens is, when you're dragging a card to move it, not only do the red borders, pop up to signify that, hey, this is like the draggable area where you can remove cards, but the grid kind of shifts a little bit. It becomes a little bit smaller, I think. So that can kind of, throw things off. I'm going to fix that. I'm going to make it so it doesn't change at all. This doesn't happen on the desktop, but right now I'm showcasing it on my laptop. And because, everything is smaller, that's why it happens. But yeah, so let's expand the grid here. And this is basically how it looks. These are the 40 card slots, and then there's an extra 20 here. And you can also notice that every card has kind of like a blue highlight, a blue background behind it. This I need to also fix. Basically, the idea behind this highlight, as you can see it here in the Fusion deck, and the idea also behind selection, I'm going to add a feature where you can basically select a card. So by default, they're not all supposed to be highlighted. Just like you see it being highlighted as I move my mouse, that's how it should be. But you can select a specific card. So let's say you want to select Ring of Destruction, right? This is kind of cool because if you're making a deck profile or something, if you're talking about a specific card, you could select the card, which I haven't implemented it. But let's say I selected Ring of Destruction. Then as I'm moving my mouse around it and as I'm hovering it over other elements or whatever, the preview here is going to stick to whatever selected card, in this case, Ring of Destruction. I think that's kind of cool because if you're talking about a specific card, but you're moving the mouse for whatever reason, it's nice to just kind of have a focused card that, maybe you want to read the effect. Maybe you want to check out the rulings or bookmarks or whatever. But yeah, at least if you also notice, the effect area, all the effects are accurate and yeah, there aren't any bugs with that. Speaking of the effects, by the way, if you look at something like Sinister Serpent, or if you look at Ring of Destruction, you can see that it's actually using the correct effect, unlike in Dueling Book. So the idea is I'm just going to be using the latest errata that's accurate to goat format. And also for the sake of consistency in terms of, wording and everything. But at the same time, if there's like a monsters or a card in general, such as Ring of Destruction or Sinister Serpent or even Sangan, I'm going to make sure that I use the latest one before they butchered the effect, basically. So, yeah, everything's going to be accurate. And I want to make it as, least confusing as possible. One thing that I kind of wanted to do for the sake of, keeping it, I guess, authentic, quote unquote, to how it was before, uh, was for certain clauses, like, for example, the Chaos Monsters. For the Chaos Monster effects, it uses the word banish, whereas in the past they used to say remove from play. I kind of prefer that. I think it sounds cool, removing cards from play instead of banishing them. But like I said, just for the sake of consistency and for the sake of keeping things just easy to read and easy to understand, I'm just going to use the latest erratas before, they changed and butchered some of these effects. But yeah, so there's still more things to do and more things to work on for the deck builder, but I do think that I'm making some pretty good progress. And yeah, once again, if you guys have any suggestions, like I mentioned in my previous video, make sure to leave that in the comment section below. And yeah, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe, like the video, leave a comment, and I'll see you in the next update.